thank you for being here. We know you guys are busy, your schedules are tight, and yet you're still here. And for everyone watching us live right now, thank you for your support. There will be many, many more events where hopefully we can invite more and more people. But for now, I just, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank everyone for being here and your continuous support. And without further delay, we'll introduce Alex, also known as my husband, also known as former Sheriff Alex Villanueva. Please stand.
Thank you, Vivian. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. This is an important day. This is a day for changing the future of LA County. The Board of Supervisors has a responsibility to provide for the health, safety, and welfare of the county, all the residents. In that regard, they have failed absolutely miserably. I cannot find a measure of success in any activity the board is engaged in. And I'm going to focus on crime, on safety, on homelessness, on county corruption. And all these things really come to the forefront because of the decisions from the 5 members of the board, who up until today have always operated in this aloof, well, no one knows what we do, and let's keep it that way, and it's all about the political class, and they anoint each other and support each other, and this thing keeps rolling on without sense. And they're spending $44 billion of your hard-earned taxpayer dollars, and you have no idea where the money is being spent. Well, it's time to pull the curtain back and see what the Wizard of Oz is doing behind those curtains. And we're going to do that in this campaign. And for the 4th District people, I'm sorry for what you've had to endure for all these years, but now we're going to take this bull by the horns. We're going to take control of county government, and we're going to make it work for you and not for the political class. It's as simple as that. And we have a lot of work to do because 2024, that's why this step and repeat says, Save LA 2024. We have to turn the ship around. We don't want to become the doom loop like San Francisco is going through right now, or Portland, or Oregon. We've seen that already. And I've already heard what my opponent has to say about when we're safe or not. You be the judge of that. And with that, we have a bunch of people that are going to speak today briefly on what they think about the race, what they think about my candidacy, and how it impacts their life, the decisions from the Board of Supervisors. So I want to thank everyone for being here. The media, thank you for attending, because what we're going to do, this is very important. I want to encourage other people to run for the Board of Supervisors as well. I want people to run for the 5th District, Captain Barger, for the 2nd District, Holly Mitchell. The majority of the Board of Supervisors is up for re-election. And let me repeat that. The majority is up for re-election. If you're happy with what's going on today in LA, where the smash and grab and it's a life or death struggle just to go to the supermarket, if you're okay with that, please vote for all the incumbents and continue down that path. We want to see things turn around, and hey, we can actually rein in violent crime, the smash and grabs, the street takeovers. We can actually impact all these things positively. We can actually not accept LA being the homeless capital of the entire nation. And instead of creating and enabling the homeless industrial complex, we can start dismantling it, get people the help they need, and the people that don't belong here get the hell out of LA. We can do all these things. We can do them humanely, safely, and most importantly, respecting everyone's constitutional rights. And with that, a man who needs no introduction, Mr. Gill.
Thank you, Alex. And I can't begin to tell you what an honor and a pleasure it is to be invited to this event. I've been a longtime supporter of Sheriff Villanueva, and whatever he wants, I respond, because I saw the job that he was doing. I'm a retired 38-year member of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. I said, I understand how they work. And my support was totally in his corner. I can't tell you how dismayed I am over what I see with the current sheriff running the operation the way he is today. Morale being at an all-time low. And so he calls me up as a friend. He says, I need a favor. I said, what's that? He said, would you come and I'm holding a small press conference, would you come and speak for me? I said, certainly, I'll be there. I told him what time. I said, I have another event that I have to be at. Okay, we'll get you up and out. And not until this morning did I find out what small event he was talking about. And I can't tell you how excited I was. How excited. You know, there's an old adage, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. Ladies and gentlemen of Los Angeles County, this county's broken. We need some help. And it doesn't seem that we're getting any, that all they do is work with each other. And homelessness, as he has said, is running abound. Smash and grabs. Get them in, give them a ticket, and let them back out the door. Where does it stop? And all these gangs that they were talking about, the corruption that his opponent, whose name I won't even mention right now, alleges since the new sheriff has taken over, he was going to clean them all up. He hasn't done anything because they were non-existent to begin with. He cleaned what he could, and I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, it's time that we clean up, that we take them. In order to fix it, you need to be a part of it. He needs an inside track to represent the people of the 4th District. We need to move Janice on out, and it's time for new energy inside the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors. So I urge each and every one of you to talk, because, you know, she, with her name, her father was, you know, she holds an empire. But there's a new district today. It's a new day and time. Daddy's not here to support her. With all the other board members running their own campaign, this is going to be an interesting race. I love it. I look forward to it, and I look forward to the victory party when former Sheriff Los Angeles County Alex Villanueva is now Board of Supervisors.
Now we want to hear from Gary Vasquez, former chief of Montebello.
He's always going to be my sheriff. He pinned me.
Say it again.
He's a guy. There you go. A lot of you know me. I retired from Montebello Police Department. I did 38 and a half years in law enforcement, protecting and truly serving good people, L.A. County, L.A. City, and my hometown of Montebello, where I retired. Also a board of trustee for only 5 years. I'm not a politician, but if you look at my record at Rio Hondo, I did 4 years. We built the police academy, fire academy, and extended the nursing program. When I met this gentleman, it's one of the things, I've worked with a lot of sheriffs, but I've never seen one so honest, so caring about the citizens of L.A. County and the men and women of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. They lay their lives on the line every day for us. I cared every day that I worked as a law enforcement officer, no where I was. It didn't matter. If an officer was hurt, I would respond to be there with their family. This gentleman did the same. I've been working at Bonds. Maybe you saw me in the paper back in October of 2022, and I was just doing my job. Like corporate America says, don't touch them, don't stop them. Well, after 38 years and I hear a woman screaming, I didn't run from it, I ran to it. And I ended up in a confrontation with a young suspect, 38 years young, and I thought I was 19 when I entered to just tell him to pay for the stuff. And I got a skateboard over the head and I ended up in the hospital. But it's happening every day, folks. At our stores around here, they don't care about us. We have to start uniting, and this man will bring us together and unite and put the fight. The violence in the workplace is out of control. The sheriffs, the law enforcement officers can only do so much. We know that was attributed to the DA, who we need to also get out and replenish. I don't care who's running in District 4. This man needs to get in there and protect us and get the county back to what it was. So tonight, I'd like to say, I'm the first one, I hope, to say I endorse Sheriff Alex Villanueva for the 4th District of L.A. County.
Can you spell your name, Chief?
Yes.
Chief, please spell your name.
Yes.
Spell your name.
C-O-U-S-O hyphenated with Vasquez, V-A-S-Q-U-E-Z.
First name, Gary.
Gary, 2 R's. But my mom remembered that, 2 R's.
Going live always has its oddities. All right, now let's hear from Brenda Lee. Oh, thank you. This one.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. My name is Brenda, and I'm a resident of Hazen Heights. Hazen Heights is an unincorporated area of Los Angeles County. In the past few years, I have seen a huge increase of homeless in the area. Back in 2020, Janice Hahn approved the purchase of a motel in Hazen Heights during the pandemic, and now it is converting into a project home. Her actions are jeopardizing our safety. One of the major problems with Home Key is that it allows them to stay there even if they refuse to get help such as like drug addiction or mental illness. Project Home Key will also house previous criminals. The only person that really benefit from Project Home Key are the nonprofit developers. Project Home Key is a failed policy of our current Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors, Janice Hahn. Project Home Key is basically, in my opinion, is a combination of homeless shelter, mental institution, and jail. On August 31st, a homeless man was stabbed and killed by another homeless man outside of Coney Hills Mall. So just like about a week ago or 2. Also, through my experience interacting with homeless in the area, I talked to this one lady, and she told me there were crimes committed at the Room Key, back when it was Room Key, now Home Key. She also mentioned one of the girls was raped in there and they did nothing about it. We have to understand that California has one of the largest homeless crises in America. We need to treat this like an emergency. We need to understand, we need a supervisor that understands how homelessness impacts residents and business owners in the area, and to take appropriate action, such as making them go away or put them somewhere else. We need a supervisor that will take care of the underlying problem, which is drug addiction and mental illness. We also need a supervisor that recognizes the failed Project Home Key policy from the current Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors, Janice Hahn. We need someone like Alex to talk to people and really listen to them and respecting them. Therefore, I'm very excited to hear that Alex will be running for Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors. I can't think of a better person to help to turn this crisis around and to implement better policy. Thank you.
Okay, and now let's hear from Angie Mendoza. Where?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Angela Mendoza, and I see a lot of familiar faces here, so I think most of you guys can. I think most of you guys will know who I am. I am the surviving girlfriend of Officer Fernando Arroyos, and today I'm here because of my unwavering support for Sheriff Alex Villanueva, and yes, to me, he is still the sheriff because if it weren't for him and his swift actions to take my boyfriend's murder case out of Gaston's hands, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna get emotional. Out of Gaston's hands, my boyfriend would not be getting justice, and I know that. And it is because of him, sir. I can never thank you enough for what you did, knowing that it was the unpopular decision at the time. And I say unpopular because we need to stop electing career politicians that like to play by the book and do not care about the residents of Los Angeles County. I was born and raised in this county, and I have never seen this county in such a bad state as it is now. You can't even walk down the streets anymore without being scared of someone attacking you. And the policies that have failed over and over again by these career politicians is the reason why so many people are leaving this county and this state. And I can't fathom to think that it would get worse if we do keep electing these career politicians, including Janice Hahn. So we must get behind the support of the sheriff standing here, and I am proud to say that I endorse you, sir, and to help unseat Supervisor Janice Hahn.
That's right.
Okay, and our last one will be my good friend Troy Silva.
Thank you all for coming. My wife and I have owned orchards for going on 19 years now. The first 15 years, we were unfortunate to have one break-in. We dealt with maybe a dozen homeless the first 16 years. We had a little bit of graffiti. The last 3 years, we've been broken into 4 times. I've had a knife pulled on me twice, trying to protect the business, protect our employees, our customers. We've had an employee's vehicle stolen. Our meat manager was attacked on his bike. Did you see it here? Got attacked. That's where we're at. Out of frustration, I did my homework, I looked at why is this happening, and all I got was excuses. I got a call from Janice Hahn, because I went on the news. They came down here. I was on it 5 times. I was on radio shows twice, and she called me personally. Never offered a solution. I got an apology. I got, let me have it, I deserve it. Well, but the same thing keeps happening. They do nothing about it. Their excuses were, basically that's just the way things are today. I learned about AB 109, Prop 47, 57. It's not illegal to be homeless. But I thought, isn't it still illegal to defecate in public? Drug paraphernalia, doing drugs in public? Excuse the language. Masturbating in public is okay. Having it in front of my wife, not here. Except all I got was excuses. I saw nobody standing. In all her years, has she ever stood up against George Gascon and said, sketch wrong? Has she ever stood up against any of these propositions? But I did see one man doing it, continually. Recall George Gascon, he was there. Cleaning up Venice, he was there. Cleaning up Parnell Park, right down the street. Encampment there for 8 months, 9 months. A girl got killed, and finally somebody did something about it, and it was this man. I've been on the Metro with quite a few of you. We went on the Metro on our trip out there. What a disaster that thing is. That's unbelievable. The bonus for me with this man getting elected to Board of Supervisors is he's automatically a member of the board of the Metro Board. It's an automatic position. They need him. They need him more than he needs them. He doesn't have to do this, but he's going to put his ass out there and do this. The nonsense attacks, the smear campaigns that has no truth or facts to it, he's willing to do it. So I'm going to stand by it.
to thank everyone for coming here today, for all the speakers and all their thoughtful comments and support and endorsement. Much appreciated. I'll take any questions from the media. And this is something I've done since I was sheriff. I've never shied away from the tough questions, and I'll give you the answer, the only one which is the truth. Some people don't like to hear the truth. They like to have it, shielded from it. Well, we're going to talk about the hardcore truths. And right now, all you got to do is go take a trip with your family down the MTA. Go down the red line, the expo line, or if you're really daring, go down the blue line to the red line. And you tell me what that experience is, and you can thank Jonas Hahn for that experience. And with that,
State of L.A. Villanueva.
Mr. Villanueva, March is right around the corner. We're 6 months out. You launched District 4 Luna just in November. How are you going to overcome that deficit? What's your campaign going to look like in just 6 months?
well, remember, the one who has to defend their record is not me. It's Jonas Hahn, the Board of Supervisors. They have to defend their record on homelessness, on crime, on the fact that they supported George Gascon, got him into office, and now the entire district attorney's office is in shambles. They're not prosecuting. The cases are backing up. Criminals are running rampant on the street. In fact, look at the smash and grab at the East LA, the Nike store. They arrested 4 people. They did not even get them to the patrol station, the East LA Sheriff's Station. They were cited in the field and released. And who supported that? Jonas Hahn. Who did not show up to argue against the zero bail schedule? She didn't show up. The sheriff didn't show up. The district attorney didn't show up. In fact, nobody showed up, to the point that the judge has to say, how come no one is arguing to retain the cash bail system? No one showed up. And now we're seeing the impact of that. So that all falls squarely on the Board of Supervisors' shoulders, because they're responsible for the entire criminal justice system and all its components. And they have failed miserably in that regard. So I think the one who has to defend the record, which is, I hate to be in her shoes, is going to be Jonas Hahn.
Are you going to be out there door knocking in the district?
We're going to be doing everything, and we have a lot of people that are going to be door knocking with us, and we're going to get our word out. And so I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to a debate, several debates, and I'm used to them, and I don't think the incumbents are. They're accustomed to not being questioned. So now it's time for everyone to question anyone who's in elected office today in LA County. Considering the condition of LA County today, one, you should apologize to all your constituents, beg for forgiveness, and probably walk away. It would be the best thing that would happen to LA County. We'll have a brand new day in LA. And we're going to have that day in LA March of next year in this primary race.
Sir, your critics are going to say that you're the one that needs to defend your record. You're criticizing how crime rates have gone up. You had a hand in dealing with that. What does that say about your tenure as sheriff if you're criticizing the crime rates and also the solve rate for murder cases under your leadership actually went down?
Well, that's a very good question. I tell you what, you can't solve murders without homicide detectives. Who was the one that imposed a hiring freeze on the sheriff's department? Jonas Hahn and the Board of Supervisors. So this is disingenuous entirely to talk about crime rates when you're being forced to fight handcuffed. Yes, we need detectives. We need deputies in patrol. We need deputies in custody. But when you defund the sheriff's department, impose a hiring freeze, while you're sitting on a $2 billion budget, there's bad consequences to that. We are living through those bad consequences today. You know how long it takes to train someone up to the point that they become a homicide investigator? On average, we're talking 15 to 20 years before they walk into the front door of Homicide Bureau. That pipeline from recruitment, academy, custody, patrol, specialized assignment, and then homicide was interrupted by Jonas Hahn. So she's the one who needs to explain why she imposed a hiring freeze. It was political in nature, it was done to harm my administration, so I have no problem defending my conduct as sheriff.
I think a lot of people will look at law enforcement in recent years and will say that there has been a problem with attrition. There has been a problem with recruiting people. And to your point, when you were talking about defunding the police, your budget actually went up in 2021 and 2022, the tune of like $80 million as well. So how do you know, what you're saying and those things jive?
Well, you need to educate yourself on the budget practices of the Board of Supervisors for starters. The Sheriff's Department runs on an annual budget deficit of about $300 million, and it's on paper. And they use that budget deficit or underfunding of the department's operation to basically manipulate and control the activities of the Sheriff's Department. This is baked into the cake, that formula. I inherited an official, on paper, budget deficit of $101 million. My last fiscal year, which ended in 21 to 22, we ended with a surplus of $74 million. That works. That means we actually made the department more lean and more effective. My first year in office, 2019, I hired 1,100 deputies in 1 year. We had no problem with recruiting and hiring whatsoever. I can't speak for the current guy, but we did not have that problem. In fact, the entire nation had a problem, but it wasn't the L.A. County Sheriff's Department. We were the destination of choice of people who wanted a career in law enforcement. And that, unfortunately, has changed.
So hearing a lot about the Sheriff's Department, you're not running for sheriff, you're running for L.A. County Supervisor. What credentials do you have to lead one of the largest counties in the country, the most populated county in the country? It's a different job than the sheriff.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm the only member of the board, joining the Board of Supervisors with a doctorate in public administration. Now 40 years. 40 years in public service now. I bring a lot to the table that no member of the Board of Supervisors has. In fact, none of them have been an executive in a large organization. Because remember, they went from career politician in the legislative branch to, oh, I want to be supervisor because I'll cash in on my name, or it's just the next spot in the career chain. What credentials did they bring to lead an organization of 120,000 employees? None.
Other than a last name.
Yeah,
And can you
about a
tell
last
us
name.
what you've been up to the last 9 months preparing for this run, and what you've seen that's motivated you to now get back into politics?
Well, actually, I've been doing a weekly Facebook, Instagram Live at the digital radio, the CRN Talk Radio. I've been doing that since May, and the amount of support and the feedback we're getting from listeners, and some of them are here today, it's been overwhelming. They want to see change. They know that career politicians are only going to ensure that continuous downward spiral. It's not going to change. They created the problem, and they're trying to sell you, oh yeah, we'll change, we'll do better next time. No, they're not. Time to get them out of office. Let's get new people in office.
Sir, just a reminder to do it Spanish.
Oh yes.
And also, I'm sure you heard Jenna Son's response to you announcing running for office. Do you have a response to her as well?
Well, to have the audacity to claim that people are safer today than when I was in office is, well, I just, that's a detachment from reality right now. You ask yourself today when, during the civil unrest of 2020, when all over the nation there were riots and fires and this and that, did you find any in a single sheriff's department jurisdiction? Not one. Why? Because we took care of business the right way. By honoring and respecting the people's ability to demonstrate peacefully and protest, honor their First Amendment. However, we were able to separate the rioters, the people there to do harm under the cover of the peaceful protesters, and it worked. And that's a very good point you bring there, Moses. I appreciate that. And I'll tell you this, today, day after day, you see image after image of stores being looted, of career criminals just doing the catch and release and they're out again. I mean, and they laugh at it, really. You look at the DA's office, and you're right, it's not just one department, but it's the one that impacts so many people in so many ways. The DA's office, it's a raging dumpster fire right now. The press barely covers it. They've lost 20% of their prosecutors. You have a DA who refused to prosecute misdemeanor crimes. Like, imagine what? Imagine he campaigned for office in 2020. I'm just going to get rid of the entire misdemeanor section of the penal code. We will not enforce them all. He probably wouldn't have got elected, but that's exactly what he's done in office. And where have been the supervisors to denounce that? The impact of that has been horrendous. And now look at When you're trying to close Men's Central Jail, what are you gonna do with 4,500 inmates who are one of the most violent in the entire nation are housed at Men's Central Jail? There's no kid there that got busted with some weed on a skateboard. No, we're talking about serial murderers, mass murderers, robbers, rapists. Those are the people that they want to just, well, let's just close the jail without having a backup plan. That's not going to work. Look at probation department right now. Today, in fact, in the last few days, I got word that they've reached max capacity of Los Padrinos for juveniles. So now you have someone, a cop on the field, detaining a juvenile for robbery, armed robbery. There's nowhere to put them. They're sitting in the parking lot in a radio car for shifts on end with a juvenile, and there's no place to put them. Why? Because the incompetence of the Board of Supervisors. When they decided, well, you know what, we just want to wish away the entire criminal justice system and the juvenile justice because, well, we're very progressive and we believe there's a better way to handle things. We're at the point we're going to have home detention for homicide. This all falls on the Board of Supervisors because they're responsible for providing the funding and the resources to maintain a fully staffed probation department with the juvenile halls, with the camps, with all the programming, so we can actually rehabilitate kids that wind up in our custody. They're not doing that right now. Why? Because they also froze hiring for probation department. Another dumpster fire. I mean, we could tick off all the lists. You want to get into the MTA? Oh, Lord Jesus, where do we start with that one? Sir.
If I may, let me give you an opportunity to respond to the Hunt campaign, especially our campaign manager, who called you a fraud and a failure. And then secondly, if I may, since you were talking about legislation in terms of criminal justice, why not run for Sacramento so that you can change the law versus running for this seat so you can indulge in those two questions?
Well, one thing is, in Sacramento right now, I don't even begin to know where to start to try to fix Sacramento on the legislative side. On the executive side, that's easy. On the legislative side, when you have basically a one-party supermajority, they're generating a lot of the problems we're seeing today. In fact, if you look at the trend in Sacramento, it's always been, well, we really decided that we don't like this, so let's get rid of it, and we're going to do something else. They get rid of it like Lanterman Petra Short Act. Yeah, the mental institutions are problematic, so let's get rid of them. And we'll have community-based care. How'd that work out? So they got rid of it. There's no community-based care. Same thing now with the California Youth Authority. Oh, let's get rid of that. We'll push that obligation onto the counties. What do the counties do? Well, let's close down the juvenile halls. It's like, it's a constant, let's get rid of something and without having an alternative. McLaren Hall, oh, let's close that down, it's problematic. We're going to just have foster parents pick up the slack. Now you have kids being held in the guardianship by the Department of Children and Family Services in hotels. That is the insanity of the Board of Supervisors right now. So when this person claims to be a fraud, well, I really look forward exactly who did I defraud of what? I think when you talk about fraud, I'm thinking of Mark Ridley Thomas. I'm thinking of the actions of Sheila Kuehl that are still under criminal investigation. That's what fraud looks like. I'm looking at sole source contracts. Endorsed and voted for all those sole source contracts, so she has a lot of explaining to do when it comes to fraud. Not me.
Sure, if I'm a small business owner, Roy is a small business owner, what do you say to the small business owners that have been hurt by Janice Hahn, Tia Gascon releasing all these criminals that are destroying our small businesses?
You know what? Help is on the way. Best I can say right now. We need to find a way to bring all those horses back into the barn, so to speak, because we have to reestablish law and order. This is something that I didn't have to say 4 or 6 years ago, because there was an established sense of order. You had a district attorney who was actually prosecuting crime. You had a sheriff, even my predecessor. There was a sense like people are being held accountable. That's gone now, totally. So the only way we can get it back is we have to get rid of George Gascon. We have to overtake the Board of Supervisors And eventually, Mr. Luna, if he doesn't turn around, he needs to go as well. He's part of the problem. But there's hope. Hope is elections. Hope is getting people in office that know what they're doing and actually do it. That's what we need right now. 2024 is our chance to do exactly that.
Sheriff, if you're elected as supervisor for the 4th District, what's going to be your first order of business?
There's so many, I mean, where did I pick from? There's a lot of low-hanging fruit right there. I think the first order of business is we're going to establish a transparency promise. And we're going to put available for the public, the community, to understand where all the money is going, how the money is being spent. And I'm going to focus on the homeless industrial complex. All the 501c3s that are getting money by the tens of millions of dollars. And what do we get? $44 billion budget. The budget of LA County is bigger than the budgets of 40 states. Population is bigger than 42 states. But you got 5 people that people don't even know who they are. And yet they wield so much authority. And they misuse that authority for things like the homeless industrial complex. So that is target number 1 right there.
You plan to make a campaign promise to work with the supervisors if you are elected?
If they're doing something ethical that advances the public's interest, I will be shoulder to shoulder with them. The problem is that doesn't happen very often.
You know, one of the things that you have said about running for this campaign is to move the board closer to the center. But you've been criticizing, you know, the progressive movement. In fact, when you first initially ran as sheriff, you called yourself a progressive. You criticized your then opponent for being a Republican and say that you're the only true Democrat. So how are you moving things towards the center when, you know, there are these huge pendulum swings in terms of who you are and politically?
Well, the problem is the pendulum is so far to the left that it's left the majority of the people in this room right here. Small business. Look at the decisions of the Board of Supervisors. You think, oh my God, what are they thinking? I mean, look at Measure J. They created a department called Justice, Care, and Opportunities Department. I think George Orwell penned that first in 1984. Talk about a creepy department. What exactly does it do? And why did we just award $88 million to a third-party administrator to then dole out money to nonprofits to do something we don't even understand exactly what it is? What is our measurable return on that investment? You ask them, they don't even know the question or the answer to that. That's page after page of nonsense, and you'll see all 5 of them when these big agenda items are on there, and they'll all vote for it, and somehow it passes, and then, as a taxpayer, you're funding this nonsense. Every one of you. And your taxes, your property taxes go up like clockwork every year, 2%. I know mine started, it's increased like crazy now. But what am I getting in return? A smaller and smaller piece of what the county is supposed to be doing. They're supposed to provide, like I said, for the health, safety, and welfare of the community. They're not. When you create a Justice, Care, and Opportunities Department, alternatives to incarceration, a Care First, Jail Last. That Care First, Jail Last is criminal-centric. They're concerned about the welfare of criminals, not the welfare of victims, small business owners, the economy, the community, you name it. They don't care about that. They care about ringing that progressive bell and score points with extreme far left. So when I ran as a progressive in 2018, I could call myself a progressive Democrat. Something happened around 2020 where the concept of being progressive became really weird. All of a sudden it became, let's get rid of cops because they're bad and the crooks are actually the victims. That's part of that progressive movement. And defunding is not left. They changed the language. The language is left, but the desire to shrink both the Sheriff's Department, the DA's capacity to prosecute, Probation Department, that is still ongoing. And it's not stopping until they get rid of those 3 elements. So if you're happy with that status quo, hey, knock yourself out. So being a progressive today, no. I identify with John F. Kennedy, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, centrist Democrats who actually dream big, met huge challenges, and our nation is better because of it.
Are you running as a Republican?
I've been a lifelong Democrat. I have no plan on changing that. I know Ronald Reagan once said, I didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left me. I have no plans to leave the Democratic Party. What I want to do is bring the Democratic Party back into the fold of where everyone is at.
Public safety here today, the DA's office, the sheriff's department. Can you talk about some of your other priorities if you were elected, what you would do for the county, other departments or areas that you'd like to focus on that you think you could be better than Janice on?
Well, one is on development. People are not aware of this, but there was a they called Senate Bill 1439 that came into effect January 1st of this year that disallowed incumbents from the mayor's office, the board of supervisors, city council from receiving campaign contributions from developers. And oh gosh darn, now the board of supervisors has a hard time raising money. Imagine that. Well, I'll tell you what, the board of supervisors, the current crowd, approved the Tejon Ranch development. I never would have approved of that. I'm a card-carrying member of the Sierra Club, a lifelong member of the Sierra Club, and I'm an environmentalist. I believe development should be infill. We should not be plowing virgin open areas anywhere anymore. We need to concentrate on transportation corridors and density, spreading out like the urban sprawl that we have in L.A. That's a thing of the past, but I don't believe we're going to start building 10-story condos and single-family homes in residential areas. That's absolute nonsense.
Let me ask you,
As we know right now, there's a $7 million purse that National Corps is trying to get from the Board of Supervisors for a building 5 stories in Laverne, 54 units, which will equal out to $700,000 per unit from the taxpayers that will go. All right? We have been trying to fight this, and Janice Hahn is one of the votes that will be used to make this happen. If you were one of the supervisors at this time, what would your vote be?
If it's something called affordable housing and we're spending $700,000 a unit, or for homeless housing, we're off to the wrong start right there. That's dead on arrival, all right? We need to focus on the cause of the homelessness, and we're talking about mental health, we're talking about substance abuse, we're talking about residential treatment facilities for them with step-down capacity. That I will fund, and I believe we need to fund that at the state level, at the county level. To me, permanent housing is a solution for the homeless is dead on arrival. That is a fallacy that we can build our way out of the homelessness. Because you build like they want to do in Venice, for example. Oh yeah, let's build this new place in a parking lot in Venice for homeless. Well, okay, you got 50 people off the street. Now you got 100 people that took their spot because they want their condo with a beach view as well. It does not end with that. And that nonsense, the LA Times in particular, they keep spewing it again and again. Like somehow if we keep hammering it that, oh, well, let's just keep building. No. That enriches developers. It enriches the homeless industrial complex, the CEOs, the boards of directors, and all those people making 6-figure salaries. But for the homeless, it does nothing whatsoever. I think there was a question over here.
me, thank you. Let me ask you, this is, for all intents and purposes, this is the same board that voted in County Measure A. This measure, which voters approved, they came up with this measure, and that is to have the power of the board to remove the city sheriff, which was largely aimed at you. Why do you want to work with these board members?
Well, I'll tell you what, Measure A, it doesn't even matter if the county approved it, it still remains an unconstitutional measure. There's ways to remove an elected official legally, and that is by recall, one. The Attorney General has oversight and direct supervision of 58 sheriffs and 58 district attorneys, something the board refused to acknowledge. And you also have a grand jury. That system is available for everyone to remove anyone from office lawfully. So if a sheriff, current or future, does anything that qualifies for removal from office, I will support that. I will not support using the Measure A to remove a lawfully elected sheriff. That is actually, Measure A is an element of corruption of the Board of Supervisors. Because why did they not include themselves in that measure? San Bernardino County has a similar measure, and there was a fight between the board, I think it was Sheriff Penrod at the time. In fact, there's case law behind it. However, the San Bernardino measure includes all elected officials in San Bernardino. They included themselves in the measure. Notice who was not included in the measure on this one. Okay. In Spanish, do we have telephone here? Para los,
Alex,
yes.
pregunta, ¿qué vas a hacer para traer la unidad acá?
Bueno, un elemento interesante de esta carrera es que los límites del Distrito 4 han sido rediseñados y la mayoría de los votantes de ese distrito son latinos, porque incluye comunidades que antes no estaban en el cuarto distrito, incluye como Huntington Park, Pico Rivera, por ejemplo. Todas esas comunidades que tienen un alto porcentaje de personas de latinos, ellos van a tener influenciar la decisión y el resultado de este voto en el 2024. Y yo voy a estar muy atento y muy involucrado en todas las comunidades, todos los pueblos, son 31 ciudades y un sinnúmero de comunidades que no están incorporadas en este cuarto distrito. Pero la mayoría de todo el distrito son latinos. Y es una oportunidad nueva para aumentar el representaje de los latinos en la Junta de Supervisores.
Gracias. Aquí.
Ajá.
¿Cómo piensa ganar la elección si el Partido Demócrata le dio su apoyo a Luna en la última elección?
Bueno, el Partido Demócrata fueron engañados por la Junta de Supervisores y eso es corrupción, o comprados, vendidos, como dicen, porque en representación de los latinos, en particular, cuando yo desalojé a los agentes de ICE de las cárceles, eso fue un avance tremendo para todas las comunidades inmigrantes.
Gracias, Alex.
Al Partido Demócrata no le importó un comino, los líderes del Partido Demócrata, no los votantes demócratas, los líderes. Y cuando la Junta de Supervisores, incluyendo Janice Hahn, estaban vendiendo los datos a los agentes de ICE por dinero, a cambio de dinero, nadie le importó nada, ni el partido, ni de la Junta de Supervisores, y a la misma vez querían pasar como, somos los amigos del inmigrante, y los estaban vendiendo a la misma vez. Yo no voy a aceptar eso de ninguna forma, y yo creo que los votantes van a entender la diferencia entre ser demócrata del pueblo o demócrata del político. Ella es demócrata de los políticos.
Uno más, ¿cómo pretende combatir la inmigrancia?
Tenemos tres cosas que tenemos que hacer a la misma vez. Tenemos que aumentar la capacidad de tratar a los que sufren de enfermedades mentales, número uno. Número dos, aumentar la capacidad de tratar a los que sufren de adicción a las drogas. La tercera, hay que reglamentar el espacio público. It's about regulating public space, if you're following Spanish. Si no reglamentamos el espacio público, los indigentes de otros estados lo van a ocupar. Lo están haciendo hoy en día aquí en Los Ángeles. Tenemos que parar eso en seco y mantener la ley y orden en las calles.
Una última. ¿Cómo piensa mejorar la seguridad en el condado de Los Ángeles para eliminar los smash?
Tenemos que empezar por arrestar y poner en la cárcel a los maleantes. He's asking, how do we stop smash and grabs? Well, one is the old-fashioned way. Throw them in jail. Don't let them out. And that catch and bail, or the catch and release thing, gotta end it. It should not be Yolo County, of all the counties in California, where they had an honest assessment of catch and release. And they said, oh my God, it's an absolute failure. But when it came to L.A., what did they do? And this is Janice Hahn has her fingerprints on this. They ordered the Chief Information Officer of LA County to create a false document claiming that there was no difference between zero bail schedule and the cash bail. That it was minimal. That is fraud perpetrated by Janice Hahn and the Board of Supervisors. The information officer presented this, said that the sheriff took part in it, like to give some credibility to it. But you know what our part was? Because they wrote that on my watch. We sent a sergeant to tell them there was not enough data in all the different databases to form a statistical number that we could say is working or not working. We didn't have it. So they went ahead and just ignored us, and they created a false document. And they submitted that as proof. Oh, look, we can get rid of cash bail, no harm, no foul. False document on the watch of Janice Hahn.
But sir, with due respect, I mean, isn't the bail schedule set by the courts, not the Board of Supervisors, not the DA?
Remember, the court set the bail schedule, and it was a cash bail system. When the court was challenged by a lawsuit, the judge was expecting to see Chief Moore from LAPD, the sheriff, the district attorney to defend the current cash bail system. Nobody showed up. Now, fast forward 2 months, and they're all saying, oh yeah, we're for cash bail, but where were they 2 months ago when the judge was asking them for their input? They were nowhere to be found. And why? Because they were ordered by the Board of Supervisors. That was official word, hey, let's just not do anything and see what happens. Well, we found out what happened. It was pretty bad. It blew up in their face. And now they're trying to, backpedal on that. But if you have a chance, look at that document from the Chief Information Officer about the impact of the cash bail system. Absolutely false documents submitted by the Board of Supervisors.
Do you have any dirt on Janice Hahn that you'd like to share during your campaign?
Well, I'll tell you what. We only have 1 day. But throughout the campaign, we're going to unveil all the bad decisions, and because all those chickens are going to come home to roost. They are right now. We're seeing it. And we'll share them with you.
I want to thank everyone for attending. I want to thank the media for being here and asking those tough, hardball questions. It's great. It's great that those questions are here. The only thing I ask of the media is keep asking those hard questions, but please follow up. Do your due diligence. You have a moral and ethical obligation to say the truth, whether it fits him or not. And that's my husband. If he does something wrong and you have to call him out on it, do it. But please, that's what you're saying. And if you know the other side of the story, say it. You do have an ethical and moral obligation to do that. Not just say, Alex Villanueva was sued. His wife was sued. Oh wow, then you make it sound like we're these monsters. And then you learn the truth, that there was no validity to anything. And do you bring up that story? No, no one has yet. So please, that's all I ask. You and everybody will know the truth, and I'm sure you will be happy to.
Are you worried though that these investigations will come back now that he's running for office again? I know that's something you really
Well, actually, I want to thank Vivian for that, because she just reminded me of something very, very important. All of the lawsuits that were filed when I was in office, it was an organized, collaborative effort between a lot of people to try to smear and create this, oh my God, scandal narrative that you folks beautifully reported. Oh boy, did you, especially the LA Times. But the outcome of all those lawsuits, you never report them. You know, I'm keeping track of them. They're 11-0 right now. They've all failed. 11-0. In fact, the biggest one was all the rage of the LA Times. 12 articles. Use of force case in San Fernando court. All 3 lawsuits kicked out. Dismissed.
Yeah!
Roberto Gonzalez, the Compton lawsuit, ooh, the executioners, kicked out with prejudice. Does anybody report these? No, because as Mark Twain once said many times ago, a lie will make its way half around the world while the truth is putting on its shoes. Well, now the shoes are on and they're running, and now people got to say, okay, well, where's all the evidence? That's what it's all about.
If that's
Choose the
true
power,
though,
Alex.
if that's true, why go through this again?
Because the public has a right not only to know, the public has a right to have ethical, competent leadership that's going to keep them safe.
Yes.
It's not happening right now. Are we destined to just live in misery and
No.
continue? No, we're not.
I'm tired of it.
We have a say in it. Voters have a say in it, and we're going to make a difference. So here we are.
Thank you,
all.
Alex.